Ian took the money and disappeared. The creditor stormed in, waving the IOU, his expression livid with fury. I could only shake my head in fear. He arched a brow and sneered, "No money? Then you'll do as payment." After being pushed too far, I finally lashed out, frantically signing insults at him. Bang bang bang. Urgent knocking shattered the quiet. I stiffened, peering through the peephole. Several men stood outside. At the front was James, looking impatient, his brows furrowed as he continued pounding on the door. I recognized him. He often came looking for Roger. Once, when I passed by my neighbor's door, James had sneered at his companion, calling me a weakling. Indecision gripped me. Should I pretend I wasn't home? A voice from outside cut through my hesitation. "Open up. We know you're in there." Cautiously, I cracked the door open just a sliver, hiding behind it while my eyes silently questioned their purpose. James cursed under his breath. "Hurry up. Our boss wants a word with you." My gaze flickered past them to the tall man standing behind the group, my new neighbor. Before I could react, they shoved the door wide open and stormed in. Roger Clark. Dressed in a tailored suit, he exuded an oppressive dominance. His broad frame carried an air of untamed danger, like a beast forced into civility by fine fabric. He strode straight to the couch, sat down, and fixed his gaze on me. My small apartment instantly felt suffocating. The air thickened, pressing down on me. My pulse pounded in my throat. My lips trembled as I struggled to understand why they had come. Roger arched a brow and unfolded a piece of paper. "Alan Griffiths?" His voice was deep, laced with an unsettling amusement. I nodded hesitantly. His lips curled into a cold smile. "Your brother owes us $1 million. When are you planning to pay up?" The words struck like a hammer. I gaped at him, unable to believe what I had just heard. I didn't have my notepad, so I could only gesture wildly, trying to express my disbelief. Roger stood, looming over me as he extended the paper. My eyes locked onto the IOU. Ian's name. The debt amount. Clear as day. How could he? Ian was hardly ever home. And when he was, he'd grab money and vanish, off to squander it with his so-called friends. When he ran out, he'd stomp around, cursing, before locking himself in his room to play video games. Cooking, cleaning, everything fell on me. I tried to reason with him, to convince him to cut ties with his bad company and get a stable job. He only scoffed. "A job? Like you? Slaving away for scraps?" He sneered. "I'm going to start my own business. Be my own boss. I'm not gonna end up like you, some pathetic wage slave." Before our parents passed, they made me promise to take care of Ian. I was weak. So I endured. Endured his demands, his entitlement. But I never thought he would borrow this much. Heart pounding, I grabbed my phone and sent him a message. The notification that popped up froze my blood. "You are not friends with this user." I dialed. The call didn't go through. A wave of dizziness hit me. My knees buckled. I barely registered the strong hand that caught me before I collapsed. My mind was blank. Instinctively, I clung to the fabric of the person beside me. James clicked his tongue. "Your brother's gone. We can't reach him. So here we are." Then, as if to drive the point home, he added, "You saw the IOU. Unless you find him." Roger glanced down at me, expression unreadable. "So, when will you pay up?" Desperation surged through me. I frantically signed and shook my head. Their brows knitted in confusion. They didn't understand. Breaking free, I dug through my bag, yanked out my notepad, and scribbled. "I had no knowledge of this. It has nothing to do with me." Roger's eyes flicked over the words. Something shifted in his gaze. "You can't talk." I swallowed hard and nodded. I had lost my voice as a child, an illness left untreated until it was too late. Roger exhaled slowly, as if savoring a private amusement. "Then it's simple. Pay up, or your collateral." My hands shook as I wrote. I don't have money. I had no savings. Ian had drained every extra penny. $1 million? I had never even seen that much in my life. Roger studied me, then leaned down, his voice a lazy drawl by my ear. "Then you'll pay with your body." I barely had time to scrawl a protest before he cut me off. "You're not saying no," he murmured. "I'll take that as a yes." How was a mute supposed to say no? I stared at his towering figure, too intimidated to argue. As if worried I might try to run, Roger wasted no time dragging me back to his place. He had only moved in 2 months ago. The unit next door, he was renting it. People often came knocking, calling him boss. I had seen James several times. Whenever I passed them, I would lower my head, making myself as small as possible. Roger had greeted me a few times before, but I was timid. Each time, I kept my eyes down and hurried away, too scared to engage. James drove the car, chatting casually with Roger. "Boss, you should have gone back already. What's so great about this dump?" James glanced at me through the rearview mirror. "He's so weak. Why bother going after him in person? This is something I could have handled with the guys." Roger responded with a cold, "James, shut up." James instantly fell silent. I huddled in the corner, too afraid to move. Everything that had happened today had caught me completely off guard, my mind a blur. I couldn't even think of resisting Roger. I feared that if I did, they might hurt me. And Roger's cryptic words left a chill running down my spine, repeating in my mind over and over. Roger's house was a small villa. "You'll sleep in the first room on the left upstairs. I'll take the one opposite." I hesitated for a moment, feeling awkward, and wrote, "May I ask what your name is?" Roger shot me a glance, his tone dismissive. "Roger." I sneaked a glance at his muscular build. His name seemed almost a mismatch for the man. "Tomorrow, I'll be gone for a 2-day business trip. Watch him for me." He turned to James and gave him a command. After briefly showing me around the house, Roger led me upstairs. I still felt uneasy around him, keeping my head down as I listened. "Is there money on the floor?" I instinctively shook my head. "Then why do you keep your head down? Am I that scary?" My eyes flickered. Yes, he was intimidating. The kind of person who could knock me down with a single punch. "Don't keep your head down when you talk to me." I slowly lifted my gaze, for the first time properly looking at Roger's face. His features were sharp, aggressive, commanding attention with every line. I found myself staring a little too long, unaware that his eyes were fixed on me, dark and heavy, like they could crush me. I didn't snap out of my daze until I felt his warm breath near my lips. Roger broke the tension, his large hand pressing gently against my hair. "Get used to it," he murmured. That night as I lay in bed, my mind was still foggy. What exactly did he want from me? I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Only as the sky began to lighten did I finally drift off. In my half-dreaming state, I thought I heard Roger's voice. "I'm leaving. Message me if you need anything." It was James' voice that woke me. I dragged myself downstairs to find James lounging on the couch like a king. He glared at me, his face hard. "What time is it? You think you're here to relax? Get moving. We're going to work." I was lost. Wasn't Roger's plan something different? From their conversation, I gathered that they were here to collect a debt. The person owed the final installment but refused to pay. I was quickly roped into their plans. After some heated arguments, things escalated to pushing and shoving. But in the end, James successfully got the money back. As we piled into the car, they began discussing where to eat to celebrate. When we sat down, someone next to me suddenly exclaimed, "Damn, what happened to your head?" All eyes turned to me. In the chaos earlier, I didn't know whose punch hit me, but it still hurt. My pale skin made the bruise stand out even more. I had been hiding it by keeping my head down, but now they had noticed. I weakly wrote, "It's nothing. I just bumped into something." James waved his hand dismissively. "From now on you're one of us." With the money in hand, everyone was in high spirits, chatting away and occasionally speaking to me. They patted me on the shoulder, offering, "If you need anything, just let us know." Through their conversation, I learned that the person who owed money was a notorious deadbeat. James and the others, tough-looking and unwilling to work regular jobs, had been assigned to collect debts. Before this, I had been like an island, always alone with no friends. Now, surrounded by their lively energy, I couldn't help but smile faintly. When Roger came back today, James and the others were already at his place, playing games and waiting for him. Thinking of that kiss, I felt a nervous flutter in my chest, as though the sensation still lingered on my lips. I fidgeted anxiously, running to the kitchen to help the aunt. As I was serving the food, Roger arrived home just in time. James and the others shouted, "Boss," in unison. Roger glanced over at me, his eyes eventually landing on my forehead, a frown crossing his face. My wound had gone from red and swollen to a sickly purple overnight. I felt self-conscious, instinctively turning my head to hide it. I regretted not wearing a hat to cover it, hoping he hadn't noticed. James was still excitedly reporting yesterday's success, praising me for my efforts. Roger barely managed a short, tight smile, but there was no joy in it. "You guys took him along to collect the debt. This is how you all see him." James' excitement instantly died. The group shrank back, swallowing nervously. "No, then what?" They turned to glance at me, confirming my presence. I was still here, hadn't run off. Roger looked at my wound impassively, then changed the subject. "The fish pond needs cleaning. You guys go." Cleaning the pond meant catching the fish first, cleaning the bottom of the pond, removing algae from the fake mountain, and scrubbing the mountain itself, then refilling the water. It was a tedious task. Usually, an outside cleaning company took care of this. James and the others instantly looked defeated. No one wanted to do such hard work. They opened their mouths to argue, but when they met Roger's cold, piercing gaze, they all fell silent. After dinner, they hurried off to get to work. Only Roger and I were left in the house. Silence spread between us. I felt uneasy, not knowing what to do with myself while alone in a room with him. Roger eyed my wound, seemingly pondering something. He didn't say anything, just furrowed his brows and walked away. I lowered my head awkwardly, my fingers unconsciously picking at the fabric of the couch, regret filling my mind. I really had been careless, showing such an unsightly wound. How embarrassing. Maybe I should find an excuse to skip dinner tonight. Or wear a hat to cover it up. It might be better to avoid meeting him these next few days. My thoughts wandered aimlessly. "Look up." Roger's voice suddenly cut through the silence. I snapped back to reality. The air around me was thick with his masculine energy, his proximity almost overwhelming. I shifted awkwardly, scooting back on the couch, shrinking my neck, glancing at him quickly before lowering my gaze again. I was afraid my ugly wound would disgust him. The next moment, our positions shifted. Roger had effortlessly pulled me onto his lap with one hand. His shirt sleeves were rolled up to his elbows, and I instinctively grabbed his exposed forearm. The position made my face flush bright red. Beneath his shirt, I could feel the hard muscles of his body, the heat radiating through the fabric. I tried to move, but his large hand pressed firmly against my waist, preventing me from escaping. He stared at me with amusement, his voice slow and deliberate. "Why so stubborn?" I bit my lip, silently disagreeing with his words. I wasn't stubborn. I was just used to being alone, to having only Ian as my family. How could I be stubborn? Thinking of Ian made me feel a pang of sadness. Roger pinched my chin, lifting it, his fingers brushing through my hair, exposing the wound on my forehead. He gritted his teeth. "These little bastards actually hurt you." I quickly wrote on a note to defend them. "I hurt myself. It was an accident." It was true that the wound was my fault. I was too weak. One push and I had fallen. The situation had been chaotic, and James and the others couldn't focus on protecting someone like me. It wasn't their fault. Suddenly, a cold sensation spread across my forehead. I caught a glimpse of the medicine packaging. Roger was applying ointment to my wound. His touch was gentle, the coolness soothing the pain, making me feel more at ease. I looked at Roger briefly, then leaned my head against his chest, closing my eyes in comfort. I just needed a moment. But after wiping his hands, Roger pulled me from his embrace, his expression unreadable. He leaned in slowly, the tip of his nose brushing mine, his breath light and slow. I could sense what he was about to do. My eyelashes fluttered nervously, and my face burned. Roger's kiss was urgent, and my tongue went numb. I struggled, pulling back, breathing heavily through slightly parted lips. Roger's eyes stayed fixed on my lips, dark and intense, his nose still pressed against mine. The air around us grew heavy, thick with desire. Our breaths mixed, the space between us narrowing. "Did you not eat? Hey, the fish are getting away." James and the others were yelling outside in the yard, shattering the tension in the air. "Just stay there. Wait for the fish to come and grab them." "Who splashed me? Hurry, catch them." I moved uneasily, pulling back, worried they might see us through the floor-to-ceiling windows, too close for comfort. Roger straightened, his face dark with frustration. Remembering the question I wanted to ask, I spoke up. "When can I go home?" Roger's voice was hoarse, and he laid back on the couch, his arms spread out. "You'll stay here. You can leave once your brother pays back the money." If he couldn't pay it back, did that mean I was stuck here forever? That seemed like a losing deal for him. Before I could process my thoughts, Roger absent-mindedly ran his fingers through my messy hair, his expression softening just slightly. "I'll sleep in your room tonight." I nervously avoided his gaze, blinking rapidly before quickly writing, "I have work tomorrow. It won't interfere with your work." Liar. When Roger pinned me down on the bed, there was only one thought in my mind. His eyes gleamed with excitement, his fingers pressing forcefully against my palm, while his unguarded gaze clung to me like a tangible weight. All I could do was whimper until exhaustion took over, and I drifted into unconsciousness. By the time I woke, his heated chest was against my back, his face buried in the crook of my neck, arms locked tightly around my waist. The memories of last night came rushing back, making my fingers curl slightly and the tips of my ears burn. My lips were parched. I shifted, wanting to get up for some water. Roger stirred at my movement, tightening his embrace around me. His voice was groggy. "What are you doing?" I didn't have my notebook with me, so I traced the word water on his arm with my finger. I wasn't sure if he understood, but I figured it was easier to just get up and get it myself. "Don't move." He pressed me back down, ruffled his hair, and got up. "Stay put. I'll get it." A moment later, he returned with a cup of warm water. He held it for me as I tilted my head back and drank greedily, my thirst finally easing. Setting the cup aside, he climbed back into bed, pulling me into his arms again. "Sleep a little longer," he murmured. I fumbled for my phone, feeling a little guilty as I texted my manager to take the day off. She was kind as always, replying right away that she understood and I shouldn't worry about the shop. Roger's embrace was too warm, too comfortable. Before I knew it, I dozed off again. By the time I woke up the second time, it was already noon. Roger was nowhere in sight. A dull ache spread through my limbs like waves crashing over me, my whole body protesting any movement. Slowly, I made my way to the living room. Roger was on the couch, his laptop open, fingers gesturing as if explaining something. When he noticed me, he closed his laptop, walked to the kitchen, and returned with food. I had them send over some porridge. "Try it." Before I could react, he scooped me up and set me down on a chair. He sat beside me, watching me eat with a look of satisfaction in his eyes. With his naturally intense features, the pressure of his gaze only amplified. Avoiding eye contact, I focused on my porridge. Roger observed my flushed cheeks, the corners of his lips curling into a faint smile. He reached out and gently ruffled my hair, like a wild beast soothing a smaller, weaker creature. Annoyed by his petting technique, I wriggled away and scrunched my nose. I shifted slightly in my seat, putting just enough distance between us. Roger gave me a deep look, then chuckled. Well, throwing little tantrums now?" I wrinkled my nose again. I was not throwing a tantrum. "Alan, who's that handsome guy who drops you off every day?" My manager leaned in with a teasing smile, curiosity all over her face. She owned a small cafe with a quiet atmosphere, mostly frequented by white-collar workers from nearby offices. Since I couldn't speak, finding a job had been difficult. She was kind enough to hire me to make coffee. Recently, Roger had been driving me to and from work. Naturally, she and the others had noticed. I had tried to refuse his help, but he only gave me a long look and said nothing. That night, he had thoroughly punished me for it, leaving me utterly wrecked and unable to resist any further. Apparently, he was afraid I'd get snatched away. In my frustration, I bit him. I didn't want to call him my creditor, so since Roger wasn't around, I figured a little tweak to the truth wouldn't hurt. "A friend," I wrote. "Your friend is that good-looking? Is he seeing anyone?" She asked casually. I seriously considered it but realized I didn't actually know. I shook my head. I had some things to pick up from home, so Roger drove me there after work. It had only been a short while since I last came back, yet the once familiar house felt somewhat distant. "You don't have to drop me off. I can handle it myself." I wrote this in the elevator. It wasn't like it would take long. Besides, I glanced at him. I couldn't exactly run away. Roger caught my hand, interlocking our fingers firmly. His gaze landed on my face as he replied leisurely, "Just making sure some idiots don't come looking for you." I stared at our clasped hands, realization sinking in. This kind of intimacy, it was something couples did. The thought startled me. I quickly turned away, warmth creeping up my face. Gathering my things didn't take long, but when I opened the door, someone was waiting outside. The man in a floral shirt had his collar wide open, his eyes filled with calculation and greed. He spat to the side and sneered. "Finally caught you after waiting all these days. Tell your damn brother to pay up or you're not leaving." I took a step back, my temples throbbing. My chest felt like it had been stuffed with a bomb ready to detonate, anger surging, laced with bitter resignation. "Ian, just how many people do you owe?" I scrawled my response with fury, ripped out the page and handed it over. "That's his business. You should be looking for him." The man didn't even glance at it. He shoved my hand aside and knocked me over. "Quit stalling. Hand over the money." Roger emerged from the apartment just in time to see it happen. His expression darkened, a deadly glint flashing in his eyes. Without hesitation, he drove his knee into the man's gut, yanked him up by the collar, and slammed him against the wall. "So there really are idiots who don't know their place." He pushed harder. "Go tell your boss, whoever owes you money, you go find them. Show up here again, and I'll wipe you all out." The man crumpled to the floor, face twisted in terror. He scrambled to his feet and fled, tripping over himself in his hurry. He lifted me onto the dining table, his gaze burning with desire, his voice husky. "I've wanted to do this for a long time." Confused, I instinctively signed a question. "You looked like a little wife when you were shopping and cooking," he said plainly. His words made my face burn with embarrassment. After a moment, I snapped back to reality. How did he know what I was asking? He kissed me all over my face, his hands roaming without restraint, his voice echoing, "I didn't want you to be lonely, so I learned this. Be good. Open your mouth." The situation escalated quickly, and I frantically signed, trying to convey my discomfort. But Roger merely glanced at me, smiling softly. "I didn't learn that part. I don't understand it." What a jerk. For the next few days, I avoided him, opting to sleep alone in the guest room. After work, I discovered that James had come to pick me up. But the route we were taking wasn't toward the villa. James, ever the carefree one, frequently took me out to have fun, and we had grown close. As we drove, he explained why he was picking me up. "A friend's throwing a party. Boss said you were mad at him, so he sent me to pick you up." His expression wavered, as if he had something else on his mind but couldn't bring himself to say it. "Alan, you actually got mad at boss? It feels like you two have swapped roles. You're the one who seems like the boss now." I blushed, unsure of how to explain, so I asked what kind of party it was. James, ever nonchalant, quickly changed the subject. "It's just some friends getting together, nothing to be nervous about." We arrived at a grand estate, and James pointed to a direction. "Boss is over there. You can find him, I need to park the car." The estate was crowded with unfamiliar faces, and I kept my head down, hurrying past. Roger stood out in the crowd, casually sitting on a sofa, raising a glass and chatting with others. Whatever he said had the group roaring with laughter. There were too many people around him, and I hesitated to approach. The table was filled with various snacks and drinks. I stood awkwardly in a corner, contemplating whether I should wait for James to return before approaching Roger. My stomach growled. I grabbed a snack and popped it into my mouth, savoring the sweet taste. Just as I was about to grab another, a handsome young man grabbed my wrist, his face twisted with disdain. "Who are you? This is a private party. Not just anyone can crash and eat for free." I panicked and frantically signed, feeling my face flush. Sweat beaded on my forehead in my desperation. The young man, seeing I remained silent, sneered, thinking I had no words to defend myself. "You people who sneak in like this are all the same. I know what you're after," he mocked. I quickly took out paper and pen, writing, "I didn't sneak in. I came with Roger." Upon seeing Roger's name, his expression soured. His tone became even more sarcastic. "You're lying. Why don't you do some research? Brother Wen's already here. There's no guy with you." The other young men who had come with him chimed in. "Oh, so it's a mute. No wonder you're not talking. Talking to a mute is pointless. What a waste of time." I hated it. This was always what I had to deal with. In my past life, the things I heard most often were, "He can't talk, it's so hard to have a conversation with him. Talking to a mute is so boring, a waste of time. Your handwriting's too slow to keep up with the conversation." Guests around me threw strange glances my way. A wave of nausea surged in my chest, and I felt weak, my body on the verge of collapse. The buzzing voices around me continued to echo in my ears. "Why don't you leave already? Don't make me call security to throw you out. Who would want someone like him, a mute, to be noticed? Ha!" The helplessness overwhelmed me. My hand holding the pen and paper dropped, and my eyes unfocused, staring at the floor. I felt miserable and wanted to message Roger, but before I could finish typing, I heard a familiar voice. "You don't get to chase my people away." I looked up, and Roger was striding toward me. The oppressive aura he carried hit me, his suit carrying a cold chill as he kicked the snack table over. He grinned coldly and spoke slowly. "Don't talk about eating, what if I just kicked it over?" Roger pulled me into his arms, his arm around my waist offering support as his icy gaze locked on the young men. The young man, who had been gloating just a moment ago, now looked pale with fear. His words stumbled out. "Brother Wen, what's this? Apologize." His expression was one of reluctance, but he finally yielded to Roger's commanding presence, muttering, "Sorry." Roger ignored his fake apology and bent down to check if I was feeling unwell. I shook my head, not realizing how pale my face had become, how absent my mind felt. "I think I really need to reconsider if I should continue cooperating with your father." "No. Brother Wen, you're willing to throw away years of friendship over him?" Roger's expression remained unmoved. "We don't have a friendship." He led me away to rest, ignoring the young man's protests. At home, Roger looked at me apologetically. "I meant to take you somewhere fun, but I ended up making you unhappy." I forced a smile, shaking my head at him, pretending to be fine. I signed to him, assuring him that I was fine. Roger's lips moved slightly, as if he wanted to say something, but he remained silent. His gaze, however, was complex, an emotion I couldn't quite decipher. The incident at the party still lingered in my mind. A sudden curiosity arose. I wanted to know what he truly thought. I signed to him. "Do you ever feel like learning sign language for me was a waste of time?" Roger froze slightly, his normally sharp features softening with warmth. "I'm happy that I can understand what you're saying," he said simply. His answer caught me off guard. I hesitated for only a moment before reaching out, wrapping my arms around him in a gentle embrace. My breathing slowed, the sound of my own heartbeat ringing loud in my ears. I knew I wasn't good enough for him. Yet, day by day my feelings for him only grew stronger. As my fingers brushed against the side of his face, a thought crept into my mind. If I could just pay off my debt, would the distance between us close even a little? With that decision made, I worked even harder. I picked up an extra part-time job, determined to pay Roger back as soon as possible. I told him the cafe was busy and that I'd be working late. No need for him to pick me up. When his sharp eyes locked onto mine, I nearly wavered. But in the end he didn't say anything. For the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful about the future. Even when exhaustion weighed on me, a single glance at Roger's face filled me with renewed energy. I even started turning down James's invitations to go out. James didn't get it. Boss is a good guy, you know. He let you stay at his place so he could keep an eye on your brother. It's not like he expects you to kill yourself working to pay him back. I only gave him a small, tight-lipped smile, silently thanking him for his concern. The day I received my paycheck, I couldn't suppress my excitement. Between my part-time job and the cafe, I had saved up $2,000. I clutched my bag tightly, already calculating how much longer it would take to clear my debt. Just as I was lost in thought, a voice interrupted me. "Alan, long time no see." A man with messy, bright orange hair stood before me. His shirt bore strange graffiti-like prints, his baggy pants barely hanging onto his hips. He had that cocky, streetwise air about him. I recognized him. One of Ian's so-called friends. Mike, I think his name was. I averted my gaze, hoping to walk past him without issue. But he sidestepped into my path. "Come on, we're friends, aren't we? Lend me some cash." I shook my head and wrote, "I don't have any." Mike narrowed his eyes. With a flick of his wrist, he pulled out a switchblade, casually spinning it between his fingers. "Don't play dumb. I've seen you getting picked up in that fancy Cadillac every day. You're obviously cozying up to some rich guy. Don't tell me you're broke." My breath hitched. A chill ran down my spine. He's been following me. My palms grew damp with sweat as my mind raced for an escape. But before I could react, Mike grabbed my bag and yanked. Instinctively, I clutched it tighter and tried to bolt. But he was stronger. A fist slammed into my face, heat bursting across my cheek like an explosion of pain. Then came a hard kick to my stomach. I doubled over, gasping for air, unable to move. He reached into my bag, pocketing the $2,000 I had just earned. Not satisfied, he even snatched the loose bills from my hands. Mike spat on the ground. "See? If you'd handed it over earlier, I wouldn't have had to get rough." He turned and sauntered off, leaving me curled up on the pavement. After a while, I forced myself to my feet, my steps unsteady as I stumbled toward the police station. Roger arrived just as I was pleading with the officers, begging them to help me get my money back. He said nothing the entire time. But the fire in his eyes burned dark and deep. His arm wrapped around me in a grip so tense I could feel the strain in his muscles. As soon as we stepped out of the station, the world tilted. Everything went black. The fever came fast and hard. Maybe it was the sheer exhaustion. My mind and body, both stretched too thin. I drifted in and out of consciousness, lost in a fever dream of betrayal, loss, and longing. Ian's deception. The stolen money. The person I could never have. All of it twisted into a suffocating storm that drowned me in sadness. Tears streamed down my face as I whimpered incoherently in my sleep. When I finally woke, I found myself in a hospital room. The moment I lifted my gaze, Roger was there, watching me. With difficulty, I raised my hand and signed, "Money." Understanding immediately, he walked over in silence and placed a bundle of cash into my hands. Then, testing my temperature with his palm, his expression remained unreadable. Relief washed over me as I clutched the money, a small smile tugging at my lips. I held it out to Roger, signing, "This is the debt I owe you." Tilting my head, I wondered, why wasn't he saying anything? His fingers clenched around the money, veins surfacing on the back of his hand. Yet he remained silent. Roger continued to care for me, measuring my temperature, feeding me medicine, applying ointment to my bruises. But not once did he say a word. James and the others were ecstatic when I woke up. "Alan, finally!" "Man, you have no idea how scary Boss has been these past 2 days while you were out." James lowered his voice, eyes gleaming. "Oh, and the guy who hit you? Boss had him thrown in jail. But not before beating the crap out of him first." Still, Roger never spoke to me. Even after I was discharged, he was gone from the house most of the time. It was James who picked me up from work instead. It took me a while to realize Roger was avoiding me. But wiping down a coffee cup absent-mindedly, I couldn't figure it out. Was he mad? Shouldn't he be happy I paid him back? Just then, my manager handed me a note. A kid came by and asked me to pass this to you, she said, pointing toward the door. I unfolded the crumpled paper. The handwriting was messy, the letters scrawled unevenly. Bro, I'm in the back alley. For the first time in ages, I saw Ian again. His clothes were wrinkled, stained with an old soup spill at the hem. His hair was greasy, unkempt. His beard had grown out, his face haggard with exhaustion. He grabbed my wrist. Bro, why didn't you answer my messages? After Mike stole my phone, Roger had replaced it with a new one. All my old contacts were gone. I quickly signed, demanding to know what the hell was going on with his debt. Only then did I learn the truth. He had trusted a so-called friend, borrowing money to invest in a business. But that friend took the cash and ran. Drowning in debt, Ian tried to win it back at a casino, only to lose even more. Now, the debt collectors were after him. I stared at him, wide-eyed, unable to believe what I was hearing. His expression grew desperate. Do you have any money left? Fury exploded in my chest. Are you insane? I signed, hands shaking. When Ian saw that I couldn't provide the money, he began pacing nervously, then his gaze shifted slightly. He turned to me and said with urgency, "Go home tomorrow." With that, he put on his hat, carefully glanced around, and hurriedly walked away. I was still processing everything when I went to work, my mind completely distracted. Ever since Ian's words, my eyelids had been twitching uncontrollably, and my heart was in turmoil. I took the day off from work, specifically asking the manager for leave. Standing outside Roger's study, I hesitated, torn between telling him about Ian's return. I bit my lip, caught in a battle between my thoughts. The door to his office opened. Roger looked down at me, his expression more distant than usual. It was the first time he spoke in days. What's going on? I stepped back, startled by the sudden motion, and was about to brush him off with a casual sign. But then I changed my mind. Would you come home with me tomorrow? I wanted to resolve everything by bringing everyone together. I stared at the elevator button, hearing the soft click of Roger standing quietly beside me. Last time we came here, we held hands. This time, however, we were both silent. My heart ached, a subtle bitterness flooding me. At home, besides Ian, there was another man who was surveying the house and sketching something on a notepad. Bro, you're here. Ian looked at Roger behind me, his brow furrowing in confusion. Who's this? Why'd you bring someone else along? He didn't know Roger? But wasn't it him who borrowed money from Roger? I was confused. Mr. Griffiths, this house is a bit old. I estimate it's only worth around $150,000. Ian wasn't backing down. Give me a bit more. This is too little. That's when it hit me, he wanted to sell the house. This was our home, filled with memories of our parents. I couldn't let him sell it. With my hands, I shoved the man out of the door and waved my hand, indicating that it wasn't for sale. I slammed the door shut. Ian's face twisted with rage as he yelled at me, "What are you doing?" Roger stepped in front of me, shielding me from Ian's fury, his gaze cold and unwavering. "I'm not selling it," I declared firmly. Ian grabbed his hair in frustration, pacing around the room, shouting, "If we don't sell, how will we get money? Are you just going to watch me die?" I remained steadfast, ignoring his pleading. Then, suddenly, he dropped to his knees, clinging to my legs, tears streaming down his face. "Bro, please. If I don't get the money, they'll kill me. Don't you care about me? You promised Mom and Dad you'd look after me." Those words drained every bit of strength from me. My legs gave out, but Roger caught me before I could fall. Roger gave Ian a dark look, his eyes filled with anger, and he kicked Ian's leg before coldly telling him, "Come with me." I had no idea what they discussed in the room, but when they came out, Ian shot me one last glance before walking out without a word. Once we got home, I couldn't hold back my questions anymore. I quickly asked Roger what they talked about. Roger didn't answer. Instead, he grabbed my waist and pressed me against the wall. "Are you really so eager to pay me back?" I nodded. Wasn't that normal? How could I possibly expect to be with him without paying him back? Roger smirked, his voice laced with coldness as his presence loomed over me. Is that it? You want to pay me back and leave? He leaned down and bit my cheek gently, enough to leave a mark. Pay me back and leave? You're not going anywhere. I never planned on letting you leave once you moved in. What? His words hit me like a shockwave. This wasn't what I had expected. And, did he really like me? Summoning my courage, I kissed his lips softly, trying to soothe his emotions. Shyly I signed, "Do you like me?" Roger looked straight into my eyes, his gaze unwavering. Yes. A surge of warmth filled me as joy coursed through my veins, a feeling so intense it made my heart flutter. Why do you like me? He gently rubbed my face, taking his time to speak. You're so shy. Every time you see me, you lower your head. It's kind of cute. He paused before continuing. You don't talk to me. You ignore me when I greet you. And, he added after a brief pause, every time you buy groceries and come home, it feels so wifely. My face flushed crimson. I covered his mouth, urging him to stop. Struggling to hold back my embarrassment, I slowly and deliberately signed. I want to be with you after I pay you back. I blinked, wide-eyed in disbelief at what I had just said. Roger's eyes darkened, his body stiffening with tension. His muscles visibly tensed as desire swirled in the air. I interrupted him, wanting to know more about my brother's situation. He nuzzled my neck affectionately and began to explain. The $1 million he owes? I exchanged that with someone else. It was all to get closer to you. You're too timid. He went on. I told him if he ever showed up in front of you again, I demand that $1 million back. Feel free to test me. The house won't be sold. You'll live your life the way you want. He paused, then added in a low voice, now it's my turn. When Roger held my hand in front of James and the others, I saw their shocked expressions. Boss, who is this? Roger didn't acknowledge their astonishment. He looked at me with affection. Call her, Sis-in-law. Sis-in-law? James's voice cracked, and his words echoed through the room. I nervously waved my hand, signaling that they didn't need to call me that. Roger glanced at me before responding to them. She says you didn't say it right. Try again. They all stepped aside, exchanging glances, and then together they shouted, Hello, Sis-in-law. I stood there, frozen, nervously bowing to them in response. Roger pulled me back down to sit, stifling a quiet laugh. Boss, how about we go out for dinner to celebrate tonight? You all pick where to eat and let me know. James and his friends excitedly dashed off. Roger stood and pulled me to my feet. I looked up at him, confused. Wasn't dinner supposed to be tonight? I'm the one who's hungry, he said with a sly grin.
Thanks for stopping by. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos.